Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Noles Anonymous. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today in the stream yard, I got the one and only Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's going on, my guy?
Drake, we're in unprecedented, recently territory here. It's weird to feel this just kind of good all the time and have your fall week to week be an exciting time that you're not looking to fill the void with.
I know typically, Dave, I think you're looking to your Yankees if they're pushing for a playoff spot,
Yeah.
which they have been doing the past few years. My team is always out typically by the month of April, but no, your Florida State Seminoles are currently 8-0, closing out the month of October. And Dave, we had the third of the season recap a few weeks ago. We're here for the second third of the season recap. We only have 4 games left to go in the regular season, 2 games left in conference. Dave, just overall, how you feeling?
Drake, I'm going to answer that in a weird way because it's
Always
funny
do.
how
Always do.
if we did the show at right after the game each week for these, I guess, this second third of the season, you could find something to complain about. And if you look at Twitter during and after each game, other than maybe Wake Forest, you did see people find something to complain about.
I mean, dude, during the game, me and you texted
Listen,
back and forth a few
you
times, a
you
few times.
you got to look back.
Yeah.
You got to put things in context here because that Virginia Tech team, when we played them, everybody thought this awful team. How could we not win this game by 100? Looking back now, Virginia Tech is kind of coming together. Like they're in contention to make the ACC title game. So, look, that win looks really good in retrospect. And look, Syracuse is, we won 41-3. There's not too much to say about that one. Um, Duke, we won that game by 18 points. Yeah, we had to make a comeback. Riley Leonard doesn't play defense, folks.
No, he does
We
not.
we
He
scored
also
on one of
only
the
threw for 69 yards. Not too nice for them,
nice,
but very nice for us.
very nice for us. But I mean, look, that's a really good defense. And you went out there and you throttled Wake. You kind of got that monkey off your back, which has been a problem for years now. But the big takeaway for me is you're seeing a defense putting up consistent week to week performances, right? Like I had a question of is can we trust Adam Fuller to put together one of the best defenses over the course of an entire season? And I look back now and I'm pretty confident in what he's done here. I mean, you've given him a lot of flack. I've given him a little less, but a decent amount of flack, and a lot of our fans have too. And look, he's getting the job done. The secondary looks incredible now. We thought that could potentially be a weakness coming into the year. That unit has overperformed, if anything. And one of the big criticisms otherwise that we had was why isn't Jordan Travis running the ball? Is he scared to get hurt? Is he injured? Are the coaches, not wanting to run him? Are they saving it? I'll tell you what, he has started running these last couple of weeks, and it has made a world of difference in terms of how many different ways this offense can attack you, which makes this a complete team, Drake,
We look good overall as a unit, as a
as a unit.
complete and total unit. And I mean, you're right, Dave. If you look, overall, we've scored about, let's see, 30 plus points in each one of our wins. Almost majority of them. We've scored 40 plus, including the LSU game to open it up. Wake Forest is just this past weekend. Syracuse. Like, if you look at it overall, this is a team that is a force to be reckoned with overall. Now, the one thing that I think is surprising, if you look at S&P Plus, FSU overalls is 8th in the country, which we thought coming in. The offense is 8th, and the defense is 15th. And in my personal opinion, that should be flipped. I think the defense actually heading into the year, like you're saying, I was a little skeptical, not because, of the lack of talent, but it's more like I want to see Adam Fuller, go from being a 40-ish, 50-ish range, coordinator to a top 15 defense, which is what we wanted to see. And in
Right?
my personal opinion, it's been a top 10 defense overall in the country. And to me, offensively, the team offensively has been very, very good. Sometimes elite when you look at the Syracuse game, LSU, Wake Forest at times past weekend, but it feels like there's something always, at least one different thing missing for each one of the games, especially from the offense. And to me, right now, the defense is kind of what's spearheading everything. But also, like you're saying, partially, I think with Jordan Travis as an example, coaches have been holding back, kind of sending him off running, keeping
Yep.
him healthy because it's a long season. No one cares about you beating a team like a Southern Miss by 50,000 points or beating up on a bad at the time, Virginia Tech team or a bad Wake Forest or a bad Pitt. You care more about those games in November against a team like Miami, a rivalry game, against a team like Florida, another rivalry game, AC championship game. So to me, it feels like this team is holding it back, and now heading into November, this is the month where we're going to see just everything let loose.
Yeah, that has to be the most exciting thing to me and to a lot of people, I think, a lot of fans of Florida State, which is there seems like there's a gear that we've seen us hit at times during games, but it feels like there's more available in the tank for this team. Like if you're able to consistently string together, like if Max were here, we'd talk about golf. Like I I can hit all the shots, I just can't ever string them together. This team is hitting all of its shots, and it's starting to feel a little more consistent. I thought in that Wake Forest game, other than that moment in the third quarter where the refs decided to hold Wake Forest's hand and march them methodically down the field, this team was just a consistent dominator in that game. And I, it's hard to say like why, for example, Jordan Travis didn't run more the first 7 games of the season, 8 games of the season, more like 6. But it kind of feels like the coaches were just leaving that for when it was needed. And now that we're
Mhm.
getting towards the end of the season, you're starting to see it. And again, if that's something that opposing defenses are going to have to worry about on a play-to-play basis, not just like knowing it's there, but like on every play, he could take off. That's going to make this team really, really difficult to defend. And on the other side of the field, Jared Verse, I mean, he's had 2 games where he's recorded sacks. Obviously, sacks are not everything. He has stood out in other ways in almost every game. He's been incredibly solid for us this year.
A lot
But
more well-rounded this year, actually.
right, exactly. But you're starting to see like those numbers come alive, and Patrick Payton feeding off of that, and you're starting to see that pressure created by the defensive line lead to the secondary having more opportunities. And it just feels like on both sides of the ball, there is more that you haven't seen Florida State's best. And if what you've seen so far to get us to 8-0 against, some quality teams like Clemson's down, but we finally got off that schneid. And Boston College doesn't look as bad as I thought they were when we played
No,
them.
they're actually low-key kind of nice. It's weird.
Right. It's like everyone we've played, it feels like, has kind of turned around a negative perception, except for Clemson to a degree. So, you head into this back half, this back third of your schedule. I'm sure we'll talk about this, but you got to feel pretty good knowing you haven't seen Florida State's best and they're undefeated.
Not only that, and I think we one of the things we talk about is, like, what is the kind of the identity of this team? Is it gonna be like a stifling defense, or is it gonna be, high explosive offense? I think you have both, but I think the main identity of this team is that either offensively or defensively, the players, the stars, or even the role players, they will grind it out and they will out physical you and kind of break down the opposing team. You saw that with Duke. That Duke defense is really damn good. That Duke defense
Yeah,
is extremely talented, well coached. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Elko replaces fraud ball over University of Michigan heading into next season. I mean that kind of plays in their thing. In
right.
AMC, we trust. But you see that game, it was difficult to start off with, but then you see them grinding it, whether it be big Trey Benson wrong, Lawrence Toafili, a big catch for him. And then you look over to just over with the season. I think the best example at the beginning was the LSU game where you see Jaheim Bell get, I think, the second touchdown of the game on a swing pass, bowls over the DB, and just walks in and just flexes into the camera. And you
Right.
just, to me, this team is just a bunch of grown ass men, and they're literally out physicaling each one of their opponents and out grinding them. And this team is going to break you down. And I think that's where we're going to see at the end of the schedule where the bumps and bruises are a little more evident there. And you're going to see us pull away a lot more in this game, especially against a bad Pitt team. And honestly, against a Miami team that defensively is pretty good, but offensively, that they got some problems over there.
There's more excitement here, folks. Like, for example, you've seen Josh Farmer develop into maybe our best interior defensive lineman, and I don't think a lot of people had that on their bingo card. At least not this quickly. You've seen Caleb Deloach kind of become a very well-rounded player. He's making a massive impact. You've seen younger guys like Shaheem Brown step up. There's you've had a lot of younger guys get a chance just to get in the game and get some real reps against Power 5 ACC teams. That's going to be important when you get into the back half of your schedule and you're making a run, is when you roll out your second or third string, can that depth not just completely implode? Can he keep you in the game? And you're starting to see more of that from this team. And I think the answer is yes. And that's just yet another one of the most exciting things here for this season. And so I guess Drake, just who has impressed you the most, and or who has surprised you the most from this team?
Oh, that's a good question. Who
Can't say
has
Keon Coleman, too obvious.
I mean, he's not surprised. I mean, what he's doing right now is honestly not surprising to anybody. Like,
Unreal.
well, actually, it's utterly absurd. I think honestly, I would say Jaheim Bell, and I think it's impressed me more mainly because you see him not only his effectiveness as someone who is catching the ball out of the backfield, also running on jet sweeps, but also how impressive he's been efficiently as an lead blocker and someone that has to share his targets with it, not only a Keon Coleman, but also a Johnny Wilson. You see now Hakeem Williams when he was healthy, getting some more of that target share. It's hard to stay engaged as a kind of a weapon or a receiver if you're not getting your full targets. And when
Yeah.
Jaheim Bell came from being the number one option over South Carolina, keeping engaged, but also like the way he's able to finish his blocks, stay around the team. Also low key impressive the way he was holding the goldfish, for the breaking of the rock the other day. So to me, I think the most impressive for me has been Jaheim Bell.
Yeah, I think when he came over from South Carolina, I think one of the big criticisms or question marks surrounding him was how is he going to be as a blocker? Because you heard South Carolina fans say
Mhm.
that, oh, well, he's just kind of one dimensional. Like yeah, he's good on in terms of like running the ball and catching it and running after the catch, but what's he going to do for you blocking? He That is the most selfless part of the game as a tight end, blocking. It seems so mundane. It's so overlooked. But you're seeing a lot of selfless play on this team. You're seeing a lot of guys play for the logo on the front, not the name on the back. And that is kind of the thing you need to win a championship. Like I think in years past, you've seen a lot of guys know that there wasn't a ton riding on the results of the season. So it's just, let me make as many plays as I can and try to get a bigger paycheck if I can in the pros. And a lot of these guys are going to go pro by virtue of, their production and performance, but you're not seeing a lot of selfish play on this team. And that's really refreshing to see with so many marquee names and such high expectations.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to basically keep everyone engaged towards the
Yeah,
common goal, especially when you have a bunch of alpha males actually in the room. I mean, they're all everyone on offense. You can look at them as it would be the number one option at any other school in the country right now, whether it be Keon, Jaheim, Johnny, and also I mean Hakeem Williams as a freshman. I bet you right now, if
mm,
Alabama would be killing for a wide receiver like that.
right.
We say Georgia right now with Brock Bowers being out, they're probably wishing for him to come over there as well. So to me, yeah, I mean overall, this team is just shows how closely knit of a unit they are together towards that common goal. And then probably what was the other one? Is the most impressive and who's the most impactful? You said was the other one?
Surprising. Most
Surprising.
surprising player or thing about this season so far.
Surprising for me would be Braden Fisk, and I knew Braden
Mm,
Fisk was gonna be a good player. You see, his tape from Western Michigan. He's a very per PFF numbers, know whether you like PFF or not, like, he's a very solid
right.
player. But you see his impact on each and every single down, how rotationally wise he's able to keep other players fresh, and he doesn't even miss a beat when he gets onto the field. And I think he also does the little things extremely well. Where I mean, you look at the fumble recovery at the Clemson game, that was the reason we won that game. He was the one who had the wherewithal to tip the ball to Kendall Deloach to run down for 6. So to me, I'd probably go with the dad of the group, Braden Fisk.
That obviously a great choice. He's like an energizer bunny out there. Every time you focus on
Dude,
the
his
interior
motor is
defensive
relentless.
line,
It's insane.
he just pops off the screen how quick he is at the snap and just how much force that guy creates on a play-to-play basis. It's crazy. I'm gonna go a different direction. Not a player. I'm gonna go a thing about this team. They've had to overcome some things. Very, very few, but they've had to overcome some limitations. You could say the offensive line at times,
Mhm.
uh, but for me, it's you've seen inconsistencies, and I think what a lot of people expected to be one of the best running games in the country. Not that our rushing attack can't be, not that Trey Benson hasn't played well, but you've seen inconsistency and inefficiency in the running game. And I think in years past, that would have cost us at least one game, if not more. And you've seen this team be able to overcome a pretty one-dimensional offense, like because Jordan wasn't running it. And the running game, especially at times, that counter run just wasn't there. It was getting stuffed. And yet we're able to just say, screw it. We're going to pass it. They know we're going to pass it, but we have Keon, we have Johnny, we just have weapons that you can't defend. And even knowing what's coming, you've been able to put it on some pretty good defenses. Like that Duke secondary, not a lot of people throw on that Duke secondary. And this team was able to make some big plays through the air against them. So if you see that run game start to develop some consistency and really get a full head of steam going into the back half of the season or the back end of the season, man, imagine it being easier to throw the ball for this team. Imagine if there were more passing lanes and more one-on-one coverage for Keon and Johnny on the outside. Imagine if the middle of the field opened up more for Destin Hill and guys like that. I mean, there is just so many more. There's so much more growth that this team can achieve before the end of the season. That, I mean, a championship. Is this team more talented than Georgia? No, it doesn't have more talent. Can this team beat Georgia? Yeah, I absolutely think they can.
To quote Frieza, this team hasn't even reached its final form yet, and that's kind of thing what Dave's alluding to now. But Dave, speaking of the upcoming schedule, let's look at it actually real quick over here. Now I can see right now that we have Pitt this coming weekend at 3:30. We have Miami coming to Doe Campbell. We have North Alabama coming up for a nice little, little exhibition game, a little scrimmage, a little practice, And then we end the season actually over at Florida. I'm not going to ask you how you feel we're going to go. I think 4-0 is what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
What do you think this team needs to, I guess, tune up heading into these last 4 games to avoid, a slip up again in one of those rivalry games? Because I'm not entertaining Pitt because I know it's Pitt up, it's up there, it's a trap game, but I'm not. If you watch Pitt this past weekend and overall this entire season, you shouldn't be afraid of them at all, especially with Patrick Surtain, basically roasting his entire team.
It's not even, yeah, that last part's going to be the thing here. I'm wondering how much quit you're going to see. Like, I'm wondering if we're going to play a football team this weekend, or if guys are just going to be out there trying to make individual plays, and you're just going to see some huge bust because their heart's not in it. Like, for a coach to quit,
the coach, what he said was ridiculous.
Out his players publicly, that's insanity.
How would you feel if Ryan did that to you after a hearing?
Right, exactly. Like, that's not in Mike Norvell's identity. Thank God that's our coach and not Pat Narduzzi. But I think this is such a cop-out answer, but you have to protect in the games that aren't in question, or in the moments where the result of the game isn't in question. I hate this answer, but you really got to protect your key assets here. Like, you're going to the ACC championship game because Pitt. I mean, we're going 9-0. Like, we don't need to talk about that game, but there's big holes in the teams that we're going to play going down the stretch. Miami, their defense is good, like you said, but my God, that offense, sometimes it looks like they're not even trying. And even when they are trying, they can't do anything anyways. So
I'm about to say, yeah, because you got TVD who's hurt, but they actually do have Xavier Restrepo is a good wide receiver. The problem is you can't be effective with it if you're continuously throwing the ball over and you actually have more turnovers than touchdowns overall. So it's like that's kind of been the big problem.
Right. So I guess, like, on the offensive side, you got to keep Jordan Travis healthy. I mean, that's the reality. Is if you're gonna make a serious playoff run, and this is why it's so hard in retrospect to have been mad too much about the lack of Jordan running. We've still been able to do it while keeping him healthy. You gotta find a way to keep Jordan Travis healthy. You got to keep Keon healthy. Johnny Wilson obviously missed this last game due to injury.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really affect us too much, but if you're going to play for an ACC championship, if you're going to go to a playoff and try to win a championship, you got to have your best players on the field. But on the defensive side, I want to see those numbers. Again, the play's been there, and our defensive players have been effective. I want to see those sacks start piling up. It's not even that it's like more beneficial for the team necessarily than creating like pressures, for example, if it's causing bad throws. But these guys deserve it. Yeah, I mean, these guys have put in so much work. We've seen so much improvement from this team. Credit to the coaching staff. We haven't even said that yet. But I want to see some numbers production from the defensive line in particular. And I want to see the offense just be able to keep Jordan Travis upright.
Yeah, and I think that goes to where I want to see kind of a little more growth from the offensive line. And that, to me, I think growth here could be replaced actually with a better word to be healthy, because we do know the offensive line has been struggling with injuries for the entire season, whether it be Robert Scott going down or players, playing through, various elements. And because offensive line is very difficult, like I said last time,
Mhm.
it's all a different language that you all need to talk with different people, different times. And your center changes based on the person, your lead communicator. It's not going to be the same if it's Mo Smith or if it's
Yeah.
Darius Washington, and then you have the snapping issue. It's offensive line is probably the most difficult position to play in football, not named quarterback. And to me, as long as you see the offensive line be healthy, that's kind of step one. Step two is, do we need the run blocking to they need and it does need to be better. And
Yeah.
also the offensive line, pass protecting wise, doesn't need to be better because Wake has a very sneakily decent defense.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to get pressure on Jordan Travis with only bringing 3, and that is it's not a glaring problem, but it's something that we need to monitor heading into a game like Miami, where you have a Leonard Taylor, a Mauai, really great linebackers, and Wesley Bissainthe. So that's a defense that will test you a little bit, and they're going to come to play because if they lose this coming weekend, like I think they're going to, they're gonna have nothing left to lose at this point. So to
Yeah.
me, offensive line, I think needs to tune up a little bit, get healthy, and defensively, I don't know, maybe get me a 0 against Pitt. Out because you've been
Yeah.
very
Right.
close all season to getting that spiked baseball, and I think you have the best opportunity to do that now against Pitt. Even better than North Alabama because they're going to try some weird stuff over there.
That's and what you said kind of, I think this all comes together to say that the run game, we got to find the identity in the run game, because to keep the easiest way to keep Jordan Travis healthy is to lean on the run game. If the offensive line play improves, that's going to benefit the run game a lot. So if you can figure out a way to get Trey Benson going in the sense that you really have to worry about this run game, we're going to attack you with it and there's nothing you can do about it. It opens up so many things in the passing game. So, then you're worrying about, they can run it on this play. They could throw it to these incredible receivers on this play, and Jordan Travis can run it on this play. That is too many things for potentially every defense in the country to contend with over the course of a 60-minute game. So, yeah, I think the culmination of all that is get the offensive line healthy, get the run game going, and I think that's gonna give you the best chance for this team to peak at the right time.
So if you look overall, speaking of the run game with Trey Benson, he's starting to come on a little bit later,
Yeah.
and it was very similar kind of last year where Trayshawn Ward was the number 1 back. Trayshawn
Yep.
Ward got hurt, and Trey Benson kind of towards, I think, from the Georgia Tech game on, averaged about, let's see, he averaged 5 yards a carry. He had 100 yards in every game except for against, ULL, which ULL, I'm pretty sure everyone was pulled really early. So to me, I'm not as worried about the running game, and also if you look at the stats, Trey actually is averaging more yards a carry this season than last season, which is actually, if you look at the way we watch all these games, you really wouldn't think that. But to
Yeah.
me, I want to see a lot more Trey Benson. Now I think he's kind of starting to come around. I want to
Yep.
see some more Rodney Hill. Also, I want to see more Keziah Holmes. That was a kid
Yeah.
that saw, coming out of high school, like he has all that film, all that tape. Jawan Sider over at Penn State saw, a great back. If it wasn't for the kid they have now, he would still be over there. So, just have those 3 coming in, and also throw a little bit of LT in there. 'Cause LT in space is fun to watch.
Yeah, there's so much talent in this backfield. Too much for over the first half of the season it to have felt like, what is going on here? Like, it's just too talented of a backfield. We've seen the production from these guys. They're talented as anyone. So, yeah, I really look forward to that, and I think the game that you kind of focus on, that like you really want to see it all come together. And it's easy to say, is that Florida game, because that's a bad defense, like a really bad defense. And I know it's a rivalry game and things happen in rivalry games. I cannot believe a Graham Mertz led offense happens to be better than a Gators defense. Like, that seems
Oh, see,
impossible
I
to
look at it
me.
as a flip flop. I think that defense is much improved from last year, but also,
Oh my God,
you,
no.
you know me how I view Graham Mertz is with. I don't think he's a very good quarterback.
Yeah, I don't either, to be clear, but I want to see I want to see our offense have a field day against that Gator defense and go into the AC championship. I saw some people on Twitter, by the way, saying like, I hope we don't get UNC or Louisville or whoever in the AC championship. I don't care who we play. Like, we shouldn't be worried about that kind of thing, because if we think we're a championship level team or a college football playoff level team, there is no one in the ACC you should be worried about. That's the reality here. So you leave that Florida game with confidence. I do not care who you play. You should beat them.
Dave basically saying is line that up, basically, because he's not afraid of anybody at this point. But I mean, you
Right.
look at overall, like, I mean, who are you going to play? I mean, that you should legitimately be fearful of. Yes, UNC has Tez Walker. Tez Walker is a very damn good player.
He just got hurt badly.
He got hurt, and 2, he doesn't play defense like Dave was saying about Ryan Leonard, and that
Right.
UNC defense is some straight up cheeks.
Yep.
Louisville. We played Louisville last year. Different coach, different quarterback. But we all saw how Johnny Wilson basically was baptizing those cornerbacks. And then you have Virginia Tech, who actually, surprisingly enough, has an inside lane to go to the ACC championship game. Well, Virginia Tech, folks, you beat 39-17 a few weeks ago. So, what team are you scared of heading into that game? And then with Florida, I want to see it come together for Miami because I know the recruiting implications. But Dave, I agree with you personally because I can't stand that school more than anybody or school we have on our roster, and that includes Miami.
Yeah, it's the most important one to me because I think it gives you a really good chance to just tune up going into the postseason. But also, I mean, it's a nice confidence game and all that. It's obviously getting a big win over a rivalry is big, but I I just really like the position this team is in because of how the kind of offense you played LSU. You know you can beat a team that can really play offense. You've played Duke. You know you can beat a team that can really play defense. And there's just no if we can get to the playoffs, if we can just get to the playoffs. I don't trust Carson Beck and Georgia's offense. I don't trust Michigan because I've seen them play exactly no one. And I say that because Brock Bowers is out largely, by the way. Also, I don't think Carson Beck's any good. I don't trust Ohio State. I know they have a good win. I don't trust that team at all. They don't have an identity to me. So look, this happened. This is like one of the weirdest years I can remember in college football where there's no team that's just so obviously the best in the country. Feels like there's one or two of those every year. This year's up for grabs. This is one of those years where you're not getting, I wouldn't call it stealing one because our team is very, very talented and performs. But I think if ever there was a year for you to go out and win a championship that you didn't expect to, it is the 2023 for the Florida State Seminoles.
And you know what, Dave? I think the way you kind of wrapped it up right there, a nice little bow, is a perfect way to now send the folks home. But Dave, as always, I love hanging out with you. Please let the folks know how they can follow us and support us, and also support the team.
Yeah, you can always find us on Twitter at Noles Anonymous. We like to send out some good tweets every now and then. But on YouTube, same thing. Find us, Noles Anonymous. Subscribe, like the video, turn on your notifications, ding the little bell at the top, and all of that good stuff. Leave us a comment. What did we get wrong? Please tell us.
I can't wait for the Miami fan to come in for that. But for Dave,
One of them.
this was Drake, and we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody.
Undefeated. Go Noles, baby.
Go Noles.